So you've brought some really interesting stuff today about Pi Network. It's that cryptocurrency you can mine on your phone, right? Launched back in 2019.
That's the one.
We're going to try and unpack it today, see what makes it tick or, well, maybe what doesn't. Especially when you put it next to a giant like Bitcoin.
Exactly. Think of this as your guide to understanding Pi Network. The goal here is to really get to the heart of what it is.
Right.
Explore its potential, as maybe a future digital currency. And also make sense of the very different views out there about its value and legitimacy.
And comparing it to Bitcoin seems key. Most people have at least heard of Bitcoin.
Definitely. It gives us a good baseline.
Okay. And to do that, we've got quite a mix of sources. Pi Network's own About page, a transcript from a pretty enthusiastic Happy Birthday Pi Network video.
Yeah. That one's quite something.
A study comparing Pi and Bitcoin directly. A news piece that kind of throws cold water on those huge price dreams.
Right, the 314K thing.
Yeah. Plus a Vietnamese article giving another angle on Pi versus Bitcoin, and even transcripts from some community videos.
Yeah.
Seems like a very dedicated following.
Very dedicated is one way to put it. Okay, so should we dive in?
Let's do it. So at its heart, what is Pi Network trying to be?
Well, according to them, their main aim is to create a more accessible crypto and also a distributed one, plus this whole Web3 ecosystem.
Web3, so like the next generation internet. More user control.
Kind of, yeah. Their About page really pushes this mission, bringing crypto to everyday folks by tackling the problems the founders saw.
And the founders are Stanford PhDs, Nicholas Kakalis and Cheng Dao Fan.
Correct. They identified these barriers, things stopping wider crypto adoption, and set out to fix them.
And they've definitely attracted a crowd. Their site mentions over 60 million engaged members. That's huge.
It's a massive number. And they say they have a core team of over 35 people globally. So yeah, it sounds like a pretty serious setup.
A serious operation trying to do something different with this free mining on your phone idea.
Exactly. Their website talks about putting power into the hands of people worldwide. It's about fairness, distribution.
And the founders' backgrounds, computer science and social sciences, seem like a good fit for that. Blending tech with, how people actually use it.
Right. Makes sense. They're trying to bridge that gap.
They launched March 14th, 2019. Pi Day.
Yeah. Nice touch.
And the big vision. Build the most inclusive peer-to-peer online world powered by Pi. So it's more than just the coin.
Definitely. It's about the whole environment, the ecosystem. They really stress the community part, rewarding users, they call them pioneers, for contributing.
Right, through this mobile mining. It gives people a sense of ownership, participation.
Exactly. And digital citizenship, as they call it.
And to keep it real, they have KYC, right? Know your customer.
Standard stuff to verify identity. Helps keep out fake accounts, malicious actors. They say it's about building a secure, decentralized system eventually.
They even talk about their developer platform being a pillar for the future of tech. Big ambitions.
Very big. Which leads us nicely into the tech itself. How does this mobile mining work? Because it's not like Bitcoin's energy-guzzling proof of work.
No, definitely not. The comparative study really highlights that. Pi Network uses a much lighter method through the app. Way more energy efficient.
So you basically just tap a button on your phone once a day or something, is that it?
That's the simple version for the user, yeah. Technically, behind the scenes, they use a kind of hybrid system. It combines something called the Stellar Consensus Protocol, or SCP, with this mobile mining idea. SCP itself is energy efficient, relies on trusted nodes to validate things. Pi integrates the mobile mining mainly for coin distribution and getting users involved in securing the network.
So the mobile mining isn't doing the super heavy lifting of transaction validation like in Bitcoin?
Not exactly, no. It's more about participation and distribution. The study even hints they could potentially handle a lot of transactions per second, but we'll see how that pans out when the mainnet is fully running.
Right. That's a huge difference from Bitcoin. Bitcoin stuck around, 7 transactions per second, and all the environmental worries.
Exactly. Now, this accessibility thing is where Pi really stands out, isn't it? Over 50 million users, apparently.
Yeah, the adoption numbers are impressive. Their whole focus was making crypto easy, getting rid of those tech hurdles, the financial barriers you sometimes see with Bitcoin.
Bitcoin can have a steep learning curve and costs.
Right. Pi aimed for grassroots adoption from the start, really targeting mass adoption, maybe even reaching people who are unbanked.
Okay, let's shift to the economics. How is Pi supposed to work as, money?
They have a controlled supply. It's not fixed like Bitcoin's. It changes based on user growth, a dynamic emission. The idea, they say, is to aim for stability.
Stability. Unlike Bitcoin's wild price swings sometimes.
Potentially, yeah. And they're really pushing for real-world use cases through their app ecosystem. Things like the Pi Chain Mall. They want people actually using Pi to buy stuff.
Which is a different focus from Bitcoin, when you say. Bitcoin's become more like digital gold, a store of value. It's fixed supply, the deflationary aspect.
Exactly. Bitcoin's value is often driven by scarcity and speculation, which doesn't always make it great for buying your coffee. Pi seems to be saying, let's build the ways to spend it first.
Interesting approach. Now, what about decentralization? That's a big deal in crypto. Where does Pi stand?
That's a critical point. The comparative study calls it semi-decentralized currently. The core team is still very much guiding the ship.
So not fully decentralized yet.
No. The plan, according to them, is to move towards more decentralization after the mainnet launch is fully complete.
Which contrasts sharply with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's generally seen as fully decentralized, no central boss, miners reach consensus.
Right. And that difference, that current level of centralization in Pi, is definitely something critics hone in on.
Okay. Which brings us neatly to, well, the more colorful side of things. This whole PiCoin's $314 K dream.
Ah, yes. The GCV, global consensus value.
This is where the community's belief really takes center stage, right? Some groups are seriously predicting a value of, US $314,159 per coin.
It's fascinating. Apparently, it started with an individual, Bao Rong Zhang, back in early 2022, and it just took off within the community.
Even without official backing from the Pi team.
Correct. The developers haven't endorsed it. But you see these Pi ambassadors promoting it hard online at events. It really shows you the power of belief in this space.
But the news article we looked at, pretty skeptical. Experts are basically saying, hang on, a currency's value comes from real use, from liquidity. Can you actually trade it easily?
And Pi, right now, largely lacks that. Its value seems more driven by, well, hope and hype, catchy slogans.
There are even comparisons to MLM schemes, multi-level marketing, because of the referral system for growth, these ambassadors.
Yeah, that criticism is out there. And you have figures like Ben Zhu, the CEO of the Bybit exchange, saying they wouldn't list Pi because of legitimacy concerns. And analysts like Crypto Insight note it seems popular in places with maybe lower financial literacy, where slogans like 1 Pi equals 1 Bitcoin can catch on, even if they're misleading.
Misleading is putting it lightly. And some are even harsher. Justin Bonds from Cyber Capital flat out called it a scam.
That's a very strong negative take, yeah.
And the actual trading price, where it is traded unofficially or on limited exchanges since the open mainnet phase started, it's around 60 cents US.
Something like that, yeah. A world away from $314 K, and a big drop from earlier peaks in unofficial markets.
Plus, cybersecurity firm OneSafe basically dismissed the GCV idea, pointing to the potential massive supply, maybe 100 billion tokens, makes that price per coin seem, well, impossible.
Pretty much. The Crypto Times article summed it up by saying the Pi team needs to focus on real utility, not just hype.
And you mentioned Vietnam earlier. Lots of miners there and some controversy about how long it took for the mainnet to actually launch.
Yeah, nearly 6 years. That long wait definitely fueled both the intense hope for some and the deep skepticism for others.
Let's look at that Vietnamese article comparison again. It does point out similarities with Bitcoin. Both crypto, aiming for decentralization, potential for payments.
Sure, at a basic level. But the differences it highlights are key.
Like the mining mechanism, Bitcoin's proof of work, heavy computing, energy use.
Versus Pi's proof of stake, using the mobile app mainly for engagement, not the core transaction validation. It's fundamentally different.
And adoption and trading. Bitcoin is everywhere, loads of exchanges. Pi, still very limited acceptance, only a few exchanges like OKX starting to list it post-open network, and its value is shaky.
Very shaky. Reliability is still a big question mark.
Economically, too, Bitcoin has a huge market cap, established value. Pi is still uncertain.
Hugely uncertain. But the article does raise an interesting point about Pi's advantage, that massive user base already exists.
Right. And it got more media buzz early on than Bitcoin did in its infancy. Plus, the world is maybe more ready for digital money now.
Exactly. So the question is, does that huge community give Pi a unique edge, despite the other issues?
It's a crucial question. That community is undeniably large and passionate.
Yeah.
Which brings us to those YouTube videos, the Happy Birthday Pi Network song.
Yeah. Very enthusiastic. All about Pi's growth, easy mining.
Enthusiastic is one word. And then the Pi Network party, dancing with the president, and the President's in Town anthem videos. Wow.
They really are something. It shows this incredibly passionate community. There's even a symbolic president figure in a purple pie shirt. It perfectly illustrates that strong community feel, almost, as the article said, cult-like.
It really does. Makes you wonder what drives that dedication.
Yeah.
Is it just the easy mining or the dream of getting rich?
Probably a mix. But the videos capture the community's hopes. The lyrics are all about pi rising, the shining blockchain, crypto growth, pi is the future, and always how easy it is to mine.
And the prez, portrayed as this digital currency innovator shaking up old finance.
Yeah, it's a powerful narrative they've built within the community, a vivid picture of their belief.
Definitely paints a picture. Okay, so as we wrap this up for you listening, what are the main takeaways here?
I'd say Pi Network presents this really novel, user-friendly approach with its mobile mining and a huge community. That's a big contrast to Bitcoin's established but maybe less approachable model.
Right.
But yeah, there are significant hurdles, real questions about its actual use, its level of decentralization right now, and all the speculation around its value. The expert skepticism and the long development time really highlight these challenges.
So what's the big aha moment for the listener here? What should they really grasp?
I think it's seeing that core tension. On one side, you have Pi's really ambitious, inclusive vision, crypto for everyone. On the other, these fundamental questions about real-world application, economic sustainability.
And comparing it to Bitcoin helps frame that.
Absolutely. It shows there isn't just one way to do crypto. You see these very different strategies playing out.
Okay, so a final thought to leave everyone with. Something to chew on.
How about this? Given that incredible community passion we saw and the push to build actual uses for Pi, could it actually break free from the hype? Could it become a genuinely viable digital currency?
Or will those fundamental challenges just prove too much, even with millions of users?
Exactly. And maybe the bigger question underneath is, what role does peer community belief actually play in deciding if a cryptocurrency succeeds or fails, and what its value truly is?
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for exploring the depths with us today.